Hello, everybody. My name is Grin, and this is my beard. Today's topic is going to be about just a story about something I've had happen to me in Japan that I thought people might be able to learn from, or I might be able to process better if I put it into words. When I first came to Japan 15, 16 years ago, I had a universal or a it's not universal, it's called it's a driver's license that you can get from, I think it was AAA, that is international. It's yeah, international. An international driver's license is what I had. So for 1 year, I could use that to drive in Japan, and the company I was working for gave me a loaner car that I could use to get to and from my schools that I was teaching at. And because I had that license, I was able to drive, but I had to get a Japanese driver's license in order to keep driving after 1 year. So you have to, as an American, you actually have to take a road test. If you're from Europe or many other countries, you can just translate your local whatever license you have from your country into Japanese, and you could just transfer it over. But as an American, because there's 50 states in America, not all of them have an agreement with Japan. They just decided we're not going to mess with all that. We're just going to make every American take the road test. It basically boils down to, if you are able to get a driver's license easily in Japan, then that means a Japanese person is able to get a driver's license easily in your country. Not every state in America is the same, so they can't really do that. It's not a federal government thing that allows you to have a driver's license in America. It's a state thing. Now, each state recognizes the other state's driver's licenses, but even if I moved into another state, if like I'm a native from California and then I moved to New York, I would have to, at some point in time, I would have to change my driver's license to a New York driver's license. However, in Japan, since you have to take the road test, you have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles area, and they have this, like, I don't know, looks like it looks like a racetrack for like go karts and whatnot, but it's just a roads with different turns and whatnot on it. It's all laid out so you can have every circumstance that you would need to pass the road test. Parking, left turns, right turns, U turns, all that kind of stuff. Double lanes, triple lanes, stuff, whatever is needed in order to pass the test. So you don't actually have to go onto the road, you can do it all there. Now, you actually have to pay for that to take the road test. During that time, I don't know what it is now, but I think it was 8,000 yen, which comes out to, in those days, it was about $80 to $100 per test. Now, normally Japanese people who take this test, they have to first take a driving course at a driving school. And the driving school, that could cost many thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of yen. So they're getting some money out of it. I mean, it's a pretty lucrative job. You go, you pay for the courses, you pay, thousands of dollars for that, and then you take the test, and usually you'll pass it after you've taken the courses that they give you. Being that I already had a driver's license in the United States, I didn't see any need to take the driving course because I know how to drive. And I had this book, they give me this book, The Rules of the Road for Japan. And it was in English. It was great. Made it a lot easier to digest the information. There are some differences in road signs and the way things works. Obviously, in Japan, you drive on the left side of the road instead of on the right side of the road where you do in America. So there's quite a few differences that you need to be aware of. The rules of the road explains it all. I ended up taking the test 8 times and failing each time. Now, here's the thing. Here's the rub. I didn't fail because I made a mistake. I failed because every time I went, they only passed two people, regardless of how many people were there to take the test that day. because they have a special day where you can take the test. You go in that day. Every time I went, only 2 people would pass every time. There's 15 people, 2 people passed. If there's 25 people, 2 people pass. That's just the way it was, apparently. At least it happened 8 times, so I'm guessing that's the way it was. So I would ask, why didn't I pass? What did I do? What should I do? And every time I asked, nobody would be able to tell me. So on the seventh time that I failed, I actually ended up speaking to the director at that DMV, the head manager or whatever you want to call him. I guess he's director. He said, "Okay, hold on. I'll go talk to your teacher, tester, whatever you want to call him, and find out why you didn't pass. What you need to do in order to pass next time." I waited for about half an hour in the lobby. Everybody else had basically gone. It was just me and the staff and the director. Finally, the director comes back to the counter, calls me over, and he says, I really don't know why you didn't fail. I couldn't get the information from the guy. I guess he's already gone. He was just what we call in Japanese iwake. It was just excuses, basic excuses. There was no reason I didn't pass. That was it. No reason. But he didn't say that, obviously. I'm just imagining that. But I'm pretty sure there's just no reason why I didn't pass 7 times. So what he ended up doing, he's like, I can't tell you why you didn't pass. I'm sorry. You'll just have to try again. So I asked him blankly, what do I need to do to pass this test? And I don't know. I guess he just felt sorry for me or something like that. Don't know, because if I didn't get my driver's license, I was going to basically lose my job, and I told him that. So maybe he felt sorry for me. He pulled out the rules of the road book, the one that I had in my bag with me at the time. I guess he didn't know that I already had and read the book cover to cover. I could probably recite the pages for you. If you asked page 6, what does it say? I'd be like, oh, right turns can only be done at this time, whatever. At that time, I had basically memorized the book. And he pulled out that book and started going over each page with me in front of me. And I'm like, I wanted to say something like, man, I've already read this book, but I didn't. I held my tongue and was just like, okay, maybe he's just going to show me a few things. No, he went through the entire book from front cover to back cover with me and just like tried to explain everything to me as if I had never seen it before. And rather than, telling him stop wasting my time, I was just like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, I see, I understand. Trying to be nice because he's the director of the place, so I'm going to have to go back there. If I cause him to be upset with me in any way, then yeah, there's probably much less of a chance that I'm going to get my driver's license next time I come, which would be the last time because if I didn't get it then, I'm kind of screwed. So I listened to him, and every time he'd say that, I would say, "Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, I see." He went through the whole book, got to the final end, and then he looks up at me as he closes the book, and he says, "If you do all that, then you'll pass next time." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you so much." And I was fuming, but you know, put on my mask. Oh, thanks for all your help. And then I left, very dejected, just feeling terrible, like this is not right. But I made an appointment to do the test again, like in 2 more weeks. And this eighth time that I went to take the test, on my way out with the instructor or the tester, that director just kind of popped up in the hallway as we're going to the cars, and he looks at me. He's like, "Oh, hey, you, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I hope you do well this time." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. Everything you told me, you taught me everything, and I remember all of it, so should be good." He said, "Yeah, yeah, I think so. Good luck." So I went. I took the test. Came back. We all are waiting in the lobby to see which number gets called. to know if he passed or not. So it takes a half an hour for them to finally come out and start writing numbers on the board. And everybody's got their own number. And if your number gets written on the board, then that means you passed. So the lady and some other guy with clipboard comes out, looks at the board, writes two numbers on the board, and says, "These are the people who passed." And I'm like, my number wasn't there. It just wasn't there. I was about ready to just scream. But just as I was about ready to just break down in tears, that director came out of the booth, walks over to the lady, points to the clipboard, points to the, I don't know what he's saying because he's a little bit too far away, and everybody's kind of grumbling that they didn't pass. So there's not very many happy people in there. Only two happy people because only two people ever passed. And this time was the same. Only two people passed, and my name was, or my number wasn't on there. But he pointed to the lady's clipboard, pointed to the whiteboard where they wrote the numbers, and then she's like, oh, 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 and then she goes over there and writes my number on the board, and then the director just kind of disappeared. I don't know how he was there a minute, and the next minute I don't know. Maybe I was too focused on that's my number, and I didn't realize where he went. So obviously, and then we all there's two lines. The people who didn't pass get in one line to make another appointment, and the people who passed get in another line to get their driver's license. And I was, of course, the other two people had already gone up there, so I'm last. And I get up there, and the lady who was giving out the driver's licenses gets kind of like touched on the shoulder by the director, who just kind of shows up, touches her on the shoulder, tells her, "I'll take care of this," and then he pulls out my driver's license thing and he puts it down and he says, "See, I told you everything you needed to know and you passed fine." And all I could say was, in Japanese, "Okage sama de," which basically means, uh, "Thanks to your concern," or thanks to your effort, I was able to do this," or something like that. That's basically what it means. And he was just beaming like, "Yeah, of course, I'm the director, and if you do what I say, then everything will be great." So that's kind of how I learned in Japanese politics and whatnot, is how it goes. You one, the people who you know are going to be your success. The more people up higher up that you know, the more success you're going to have down at the bottom. And they tend to hammer people down. So in Japan, we have this phrase that basically says that, and I'm sure everybody knows this phrase or has another phrase just like it, but the hammer that sticks up gets nailed. So the world is a hammer, and everybody's a nail. And if you're sticking up too much, you're gonna get hit. And that's kind of the way it works in Japan, especially in business politics, and apparently in politics for getting your driver's license too. So if you make a big stink about something or whatnot, they're gonna hammer you down and keep you down. And if you just follow the status quo, then you'll be fine. So part of the thing about living in Japan is you don't want to be too over the top. You don't want to do or make a stink, or you don't want to draw attention to yourself. You just kind of want to be an NPC in the background. It's all about NPC lifestyle. You're an NPC and just follow the NPC rules, and nobody's gonna kill you. But as soon as you, it's like a a MMO or something like that, an RPG, where it's like you pass by all the NPCs, but as soon as somebody jumps out and starts doing something different, then you realize, oh, that must be a main character, or someone you're supposed to talk to, or someone you're supposed to kill. So you go to that person in that game. Yeah, that's what you become. You stay in your lane, and you be your NPC self, and you'll just naturally float along the river of whatever success that they piss down at you. And if you do anything other than that, then you're gonna be attacked by whoever feels like they're the main character at the time. Your manager, your district manager, uh, or even other NPCs. So just for your warning and for myself that I've seen, if you come to Japan, don't draw too much attention to yourself and be as humble as possible. You want to eat that humble pie, eat that crow, whatever, because the more you do that, the less you stick out like a nail that needs to be hammered. You don't want to complain too much. Now, there are some uh, caveats to that. I would say if you are a customer and you're paying money for something, there's a point where you have to say no, enough is enough, and put your foot down, and I don't know, get your money back or return the item or get a repair or whatever you're buying, or just stop the abuse of whatever the company is doing to you. If you're a customer, but if you're not, then yeah, you don't want to be the character that sticks out. You don't want to be the nail that sticks out. That's kind of my my experience as I see it, and this has happened to me many times in many different businesses that I've worked in Japan. Mostly English. I've been an English teacher for the longest time because it's unless you have a Japanese understanding, you can read and write, and your Japanese is really high quality. You're not going to get much of a good job unless I don't know, you're a very special worker that has a very special skill, some sort of engineer, and you're the only person that can build widgets for the widget company. Then, yeah, maybe Japanese isn't so important because they don't need you for your Japanese skill. They need you for your engineering skill, or if you're a programmer or something like that. I'm not any of those things. I'm not an engineer, uh, not a trained engineer. I'm not a uh, software engineer, only as a hobby. So I've been in many English teaching jobs, some for years and some for very short. And I've found we have a thing in Japan called kurogaisha, which just means black company. And I'm sure you can understand black company means a company that treats their employees terribly. And there's a lot of that too, because the companies, you're just a cog in the wheel. You're the NPC. Just do your job, do what you're supposed to be that widget, and do what you're supposed to do, and you'll have an NPC life. And the only way you can get out of that is to either find a different job, get out of the job that you're in, and find a different job, because you can't work smarter or change things in the job that you're at. Uh, because if you start doing that, then you'll become the nail that people start hammering down. But if you come in already with the expectation of doing what you intend to do, then that's what you're supposed to do. So you're no longer the nail that sticks out. You're just doing your job. So if I come into a business as a teacher and my job is to teach kids, then my job isn't to decide how best to teach the kids. It's just to teach the kids. Whatever they decide needs to be done is how you should do it. And if they have, if even if they make you do it, if they're like you need to make the lesson plans and stuff like that, then you have to figure out how they've been doing the lesson plans and do it the same kind of way. Because if you start doing something completely different and they're like, oh, we don't know what you're doing or whatnot, then you become the nail and they will hammer you. But if you go into a job where your entire job is to think of and design lessons for English or something like that, then you're already in that position where your ideas, even if they're crazy, are considered your job. That's You're just doing your job. That's kind of how it works in Japan, as far as I can see. Maybe you have some. Maybe anyone else out there has some examples that you can give, especially if you live in Japan. But I mean, this kind of politics isn't just in Japan. You get this kind of stuff in the states too. I've worked many jobs in the states where it's pretty much been the same kind of thing. I've been a computer repairman. I've been a car salesman, an electronics salesman. I've been a manager at a bowling alley, a manager at a convenience store. I've done many different jobs, uh, renovation and hotels and stuff like that. You name it. But every time there's always something like that. Once you start, either you do it super well and people or your bosses admire you, or you make a mistake and you get hammered down. Other advice I've seen is this: if you if you plan on changing things, then it is better to beg for forgiveness than to ask permission, mostly. So, and you also need to be sure that your idea is going to work. If you do something that's off the wall or isn't normal in the circumstances of your work in Japan, but it becomes successful or has a good result, you will still get talked to. They will still say, "That's not what we wanted to do. You didn't do what we wanted." And in that time, you can say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, but I'm glad that it worked out really, really well." That's kind of the only way you can get out of that kind of circumstance or situation. Make sure if you are going to go and do something above and beyond or abnormal to their way of doing things, then it better be successful and you should ask for forgiveness instead of asking permission. Now, if you if you do it and it turns out bad, then well, you took that gamble and you're probably just going to get fired or you're going to get hammered really hard. Sorry, that's just the way it goes. Either be successful or you're out. But that's kind of what I had on my mind. The only, oh, yeah, this all boils down to how to really have a good life in Japan, and that is be your own boss. And that's kind of anywhere you go, but especially in Japan. You don't want to deal with all this stuff and becoming the nail that gets hammered. Then be the boss. Start your own business. Find a way to start your own business. And if you can do that, then you'll have a much happier life. You might have to work harder, but at least you won't have somebody else breathing down your neck about your ideas. You'll be able to be the idea. You are the idea of the business that you build. And that's kind of the only way you can really ensure that your work matches what you feel will make you happy. All right. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Oh, yeah. Gotta do this stuff. Uh, Subscribe, like, all that kind of blah, blah, blah. Okay, bye bye.